Presidents can be ranked about a lot of things: their policies, the way they acted, the way they treated foreign nations. Maybe they were president during a war. We can see how they handled that war. Maybe they were president during a recession. Maybe they were a president during prohibition, right? There's a lot of different factors. Congress bills could have been passed. We could have events that were out of their control could have affected how people have saw them. But today we're going to be reviewing presidents based off their likelihood, if they were alive during when this video game was released, well, their likelihood to beat 2022's Game of the Year, winning more awards than any other game has ever done before. We're going to be ranking presidents by who is most likely to beat Elden Ring. If you're someone who likes history, you're probably going to go know more about some of these guys than I do. But I'm going to be trying my best to figure out how much each of these presidents, or rather, the likelihood that each of these presidents would have beaten Elden Ring. Okay, so let's start with George Washington. Now, I think of all the presidents, this is probably the one you learn the most about, at least when you're really young. He grew up on a farm. He used to ride his horse around a lot, crap like that. I think something about him having an apple orchard. Anyway, he was also the first president ever, and I think a lot about this guy and whether or not he would beat Elden Ring. And I think the thing is, let's see, what did this guy like to do? He'd like to ride horses. He liked to fight wars, and he didn't even like being president that much, so he retired after 2 terms. So, a man who likes fighting, a man who likes riding horses, and a man who likes not having a job. That makes him a perfect Elden Ring player, alright? So George Washington is going in S tier. That's right, he's our first S tier. Now, John Adams is not exactly as popular as Washington. I think he wrote the Federalist Papers with James Madison, but ultimately I also think he's pretty boring, and there's going to be this certain subsection actually that a lot of presidents fall into where they're lame, and I don't think they play video games. I don't think they'd be interested. I think they'd like to read books or do something stupid. So, John Adams is going to go in D tier. Maybe if he had children, he would play it with his kids, but I don't think he himself is going to be, is going to fight it. Thomas Jefferson was a friend of John Adams. This was at the period of time where even if they were members of different parties, they would still be buds with each other. They were political rivals, but they'd still have fun with each other. I don't know. I don't know what they did back then. They hunted deer together or something. I don't know. Anyway, I think he has better hair than John Adams, so I think we'll put him in C tier. I don't think he was that likely to play, but I do think with the cultural phenomenon, which is Elden Ring, he is maybe, if you got him in the right situation, he would maybe pick up a controller and play. I think unlikely, but you could probably convince him to do it. James Madison also wrote the Federalist Papers. He was president during the War of 1812, which is a war we kind of lost. I wouldn't say we totally lost. It's more of a draw, historians consider it, but the White House did get burned down. And how are you supposed to play Elden Ring if the White House is burned down? And with that, I rest my case. The next president is James Monroe, who, after becoming president, was plagued by financial difficulties, according to his Wikipedia, which makes me wonder, if you don't have money, how are you supposed to play games? So I think this guy's got to go in F. I don't make the rules. I just you need income to be able to play games. So next up we have John Quincy Adams, who looks like a walking corpse. And something. I think in Elden Ring you fight corpses. So would he be scared of fighting corpses, or do you think he would actually take some sort of enjoyment in it? And I think that's an interesting question. And ultimately, I think yes. I think he would like to play Elden Ring. I mean, when you're close to death, when you look like that, you're not exactly able to go out on the town. So I think in between, maybe after he became president, was a congressman again. Maybe in between, congressional sessions when Congress was on recess, maybe he'd boot up the Xbox and, take a stab at one of Elden Ring's many bosses. So, no, I don't think it's totally unfair. Next up, we have Andrew Jackson, who I mainly know for signing the Indian Removal Act, which has been described as an ethnic cleansing, as he forced Native Americans to travel through the Trail of Tears, which was not good, not a fun time, and it was, wouldn't recommend. But I guess the question is, we're rating them based off, their ethical standard. We're rating them more off of their ability to beat Elden Ring. Something to note about this guy is that he actually ran for president in 1824 and got not a majority, he got the most electoral college votes, but not a majority, which caused it to go to a runoff in the House of Representatives, where each state would vote individually for who they want to be president, and that's what caused John Quincy Adams to win. But Andrew Jackson then ran the next in the next 4 years, the next election, and he won. So he's not a quitter, which I think is going to help his chances here. So I'll put him in B tier. I think he's about as likely as John Quincy Adams, and maybe his chances of beating it, I would say, are slim, but he also has a much greater chance than most of these presidents at even picking up the controller. So take what you could get. Next up, we have Martin Van Buren, who seems to have forgotten to keep his hair on his head, and it seems to have moved to the sides near the ears, so he may want to get that checked out. This guy led to the Panic of 1837, which was a major economic depression, and some running theme you're going to notice with me is I think economic recessions are not exactly good for video games, so I think anyone who has them is less likely to play them. So I think this guy is a D tier president in terms of his likelihood to play the 2022 Game of the Year Elden Ring. Next up, we have William Henry Harrison, who is known as the shortest serving president. He served a total of 1 month. That's right, 1 month. He got an illness about a few days after becoming president and then died. No disrespect to illness in the 19th century. We did not have the cures that we think we do now. But, I think dying makes it pretty hard to be able to beat Elden Ring. So this guy's going to have to go in F tier. I'm sorry. I know he already took an L by dying a month into his presidency, but looks like he's going to have to take another one by being put in the F tier. John Tyler took over for William Henry Harrison, and he was part of the Whig Party. He was the first really reigning Whig president. Of course, William Henry Harrison was elected as a Whig, but he didn't really serve much now, did he? So now it's John Tyler. Despite this guy being in the Whig Party, he didn't really like a lot of the bills they tried to pass in Congress, and he ended up vetoing a lot of them. So ultimately, he wasn't much of a team player, I guess you could call him. I guess he was more of a team constitution. So I guess the question is a rule follower more or less likely to play Elden Ring? And, I think if there's one thing you could learn while playing the Souls genre, is that there are rules to the Souls genre. And if you don't follow them, you will die a lot. So I think a rules follower is actually more likely to play the game. So, we'll put this guy at A tier, because ultimately I think he seems like the first. Seems like he has the real gamer build. He's real long and lanky. Kind of like most gamers you see. He's kind of got that Scott the Woz looking build. So I think he's more likely to play these types of games. Next up, we got James K. Polk, who is known for absolutely nothing, and you probably did not know he existed up until now. James K. Polk was president during a war, and something I don't know you may have noticed yet. But most of the time, I think wartime presidents, not generally, I think some wartime presidents are more likely to play Elden Ring. And I got his photo pulled up here. It's not the photo you can see down here. It's a photo where you could more see his hair, and he has kind of these dead, lifeless eyes, and they're real. They're really the eyes of a gamer. So I feel like this guy's pretty likely. So this guy's also gonna go at A tier because I think war and dead, lifeless eyes. I think that is a good combination that shows that you are likely to be a gamer. Zachary Taylor was another president to die in office. This time he died about a year in. Sadly, the running theme is if you die in office, you do not have time to play Elden Ring. So, that is it. Millard Fillmore is probably the president I think the least people would know. I had at least heard of the name Zachary Taylor before. I had heard of all these names before. I had never heard of Millard Fillmore before in my life. It sounds like he runs an oil tycoon. According to Wikipedia, he's listed as one of the worst presidents of the United States. They ranked him as weak and inept. But you know what weak and inept people are great at doing? Playing video games. So that is the reason why he is going in B tier. Maybe Fillmore would have been a better president if he could have some sort of outlet. Like a 2022 Game of the Year from Software. Just a thought. Franklin Pierce, who in this photo, he is the only president on here who has his hand in his jacket, like he is about to pull out a pocket watch. Sadly, Franklin Pierce's family was also killed in a train crash during his in between the time after the election but before his inauguration. And honestly, I don't think you'd be really interested in playing video games if most of your family is dead. So we are going to put this guy in F tier. And next up we have James Buchanan, who honestly I don't think is really that likely to play Elden Ring or not to play, especially to beat it. I think that's pretty much a toss up. I don't think we could really discern much about his Elden Ring likeliness from his presidency, but you know, I think we'll put him in C tier. Next up is Abe Lincoln, who I think would have probably been a great Elden Ring player. Sadly, he died in office, and the rule is we have to put them in F tier if they die in office. So, sadly, I think he would have been a great Elden Ring player, probably would have platinumed the game. Andrew Johnson, he took over for Abraham Lincoln. He was a Democrat. He didn't really follow up on a lot of the goals Lincoln set via his presidency. So, I think a bad follow-through like that shows a lack of resolve. And that resolve is something you really need to have to beat Elden Ring. So, I think that puts him in D tier, all right? Because I don't see him doing it. Ulysses S. Grant is our next president, and I know a lot about this guy. He fought in the Civil War. He was a whiskey-drinking badass, and of all the presidents on this list, he is the most likely to play Elden Ring, and he is the most likely to beat it, because he knows where the true spirit lies, all right, and it's in the games that you play. So Ulysses S. Grant is our second S tier. He's up there with Big George, all right? Big George. Rutherford B. Hayes was the president of the United States, and he was also a governor of Ohio, where the first gamer was born. So, I say that makes him pretty likely to play Elden Ring, so we're going to put him in the A tier. Next up, we have Garfield, the president, who was shot in office. That means he belongs in F tier. Chester A. Arthur is our next president, and he is said to be one of the most respected presidents. And respect is something you need to play games. You know, if you don't have respect of your gamer peers, then you're not going to make it very far. So we're going to put him in B tier. Grover Cleveland is our next president, and he led in a economic recession, which is never good. So we're probably going to have to put him in D tier. Economic recessions are never good, and people can't buy games when they don't have money. This guy is Benjamin Harrison, who was also born in Ohio, which I think already gives him an edge. But he also is pretty freaking old. I don't know if he doesn't really look like the video game type. So I think this is another C tier. I think being in Ohio, but being old kind of balance it out, and he doesn't have the super cool beard like Hayes does. So, McKinley was also a president who was assassinated. He goes in F. I am sorry, McKinley. All right, next up, Theodore Roosevelt. He was an outside man, which I think honestly gives us two options. The question is, if Elden Ring did exist in the time he was around, would he have decided not to go outside, step out into the great outdoors, and instead decide to stay inside and grind some souls. And you know what? I think he would. Yes, in fact, he may even make time for both, because that's just how much of a Chad Theodore Roosevelt was, unless you look at some wrong parts of him, which in that case, maybe not so much. But in terms of playing video games, I bet he was a Chad. Here's Taft, and I think he was born in Ohio, so that's pretty good. And his mustache is all right, so we're going to put a bit below Rutherford, but still a B tier, which is respectable. So I think that's pretty good. I like his place there. Next up, we have Woodrow Wilson. This guy seems like he would find the idea of video games insulting. He kind of has the look of a disappointed father who's watching his child slowly wish away his life by playing video games. So I would say he's probably one of the least likely presidents to be caught even holding a controller. So he's going to go in F tier. Warren G. Harding is next, who is funny because he has the word hard in his name. He was a doctor, and I think doctors are actually less likely to play Elden Ring. I feel like they would think that the violence is pointless. So we're gonna put him in C. I think he belongs in C. Next up, we have Coolidge. I think being a prohibition president automatically makes you less likely to like video games, because if you don't even like beer, come on. So we're gonna go in D. So we're gonna go D tier, and we're gonna put Hoover there too, because I think they're fairly similar in terms of their likelihood to play Elden Ring. Next up, we have FDR, who, while being a great president during the war and bringing America out of the Great Depression, likelihood to play Elden Ring? Unlikely. He was too busy running the country through World War II and doing all of that stuff, so he also belongs in D tier. You're going to notice this is kind of a L-shaped tier list. It's kind of bottom heavy because not a lot of presidents are likely to play Elden Ring. Next up, we have Harry S. Truman, who in my opinion is even less likely to pick up a controller. Just doesn't look like the type of guy, He ordered the dropping of the nuclear bomb. I don't think he was the biggest fan of Japan in general. So, why would he play a game developed by a Japanese company? Exactly. So we're gonna put him at F. I think that's where he belongs. Next up, we have Eisenhower, who he was a war general, so I think it kind of gives him an edge like Grant. But ultimately, I just don't think he has those gamer genes in him. So I think he belongs in D with FDR. Now John F. Kennedy sadly was also killed in office, so he goes in F. That being said, I think he would have been a very interesting gamer in the modern day. And if we're judging based off his Clone High character, that he would have definitely been a gamer. He would have gamed all day. Lyndon B. Johnson, I think, is slightly more likely to honestly be a gamer than Kennedy. That being said, I don't think super likely, also considering the fact that the only reason why that Kennedy is also in F tier, I think that, slightly more likely doesn't really matter that much. But we're gonna put him in C, because, he may have sent troops into Vietnam, but if you like sending young Americans to die in war, then you probably also like playing video games. So, who can fault the man here, all right? Richard Nixon is next, and he famously told America that he is not a crook, and that is correct, because he is an Elden Ring player, A-tier Elden Ring player. All right, let's move on. Watergate, more like Elden Ringgate, all right? He was playing too much of it, couldn't get the job of president done. All right, Gerald Ford is next, and he has the honor of sounding like a car. And also, his first action as president was to pardon Nixon. So, I think less likely. I think if he's gonna not even let someone face their punishment for their crimes, then how is he gonna have the commitment to face the evil that is an Elden Ring boss? So we're gonna put him in D. Jimmy Carter. One thing I know about this guy is he put solar panels on the White House. And, that's pretty cool, but it also makes him a pussy. So F tier. Ronald Reagan. He was really freaking old. Like ancient, like Joe Biden old. So I feel like his likelihood of playing Elden Ring was pretty low. We're going to put him in D. I think he was too busy talking about how the federal government is ruining everything. All right, George H.W. Bush. He's like Ronald Reagan, but I feel like Ronald Reagan is more likely to play Elden Ring. I guess I don't know why. Anyway, this guy goes in F. Bill Clinton. You know, there's two things he loves: blowjobs and Elden Ring. He goes in B tier. The B is for blowjob in his name. Bill. It stands for blowjob. George W. Bush. George W. Bush, you know what the W stands for? All the wins he is getting in Elden Ring. This guy also goes in B tier. All right? Obama. Look, we've really gotten to the point now where all of these presidents are still alive, so they still have the possibility of playing the game, which in my opinion increases their chances. Besides Jimmy Carter, he is definitely not playing Elden Ring. And you know what? I think Obama's chances are pretty high. Not super high or anything, but I think pretty high. So anyway, there we have Obama. I think he belongs in A tier. Then we have Trump, who I think is less likely than Obama, but still more likely than your average president. We're gonna put him in B tier. You know, if he's gonna sell his own NFTs, then he may play Elden Ring. And finally, we have Joe Biden, our current president, and you know he's still alive, but he's also getting pretty old. And you know, I just don't think he has it in him. And no offense to Joe, because you know he's trying his best, but I think he has to be a D tier in terms of his likelihood to play Elden Ring. So anyway, guys, that's my tier list based on Elden Ring. I will put the link to this in the description. So if you guys want to make your own tier list, that is very much what you can do. And yeah, I will see you guys. I will see you guys later. If you want more of this, drop a comment, let me know, leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and thank you guys for watching. Bye.